Alright, so when we pick up with Black Phone 2, years have passed since Finney slayed the grabber, but he and his sister Gwen are still living a tortured existence. They are not having a good, happy life. Finney, who's still played by Mason Timms, is an antisocial burnout who's really ravaged by PTSD, which is fair considering when he was a small child, he was abducted by a serial killer and then thrown into a basement full of ghost children. Madeline McGraw expertly plays his sister Gwen, who's arguably even worse off. She's a walking pariah at school, and the hallways are full of gossip and murmurs that really label her as like a weirdo witch. And things get no better for her when she returns home, because Finney used to be her leaning post, her confidant, and now he's just completely disaffected. Now, her father has put down the bottle. He's no longer an abusive drunk, which is good, but he's not yet facing reality, which is bad. Look, all of that is excruciating, but says nothing of the horrible visions that haunt her. Visions of small children stalked at a snowy camp before befalling grisly deaths of the axe murder variety. And with these visions coming with ferocious rapidity, just really coming every single night, over and over again, Gwen realizes this is really a call to action. She needs to go to that camp and she needs to procure answers and justice for these poor small victims. So one of our main conflicts in this film is Gwen's preternatural power. Does it make her that weirdo witch? Does it make her ill-fated like her mother, whose life was tragically lost? Or is it some sort of great tool that can make her the antithesis of people like the grabber and can put her in touch with those on the other side and help them find some sort of peace for eternity? You're just going to have to go along on the ride to find out. The movie's first act, all the setup, it's really strong, but hell truly breaks loose once we get to that isolated, secluded, wintry camp. We're treated all sorts of revelations about the grabber's origins, as well as a bunch of earth-shattering epiphanies that greatly affect Gwen and Finn. The through line of Black Phone 1 all the way to the end of Black Phone 2 is phenomenally told. We cared so much for these kids in their first film because their home life was so deeply sad and their world was just so harsh. Throw in a child predator, and of course we were deeply invested in their outcomes. And as we trek further into the supernatural and see that predator coming for them yet again, this time from the great beyond, what's truly amazing is that, for my money, the Black Phone 2 manages to sidestep all of the great pitfalls that so often besiege horror sequels. These were characters I already really liked, and now I really love them. I love the whole family, even the father. I really believe everybody gets something redeeming in this movie, so everybody walks away with what is a pretty strong arc for a little 2-film set. But the biggest shout out has to go to Madeline McGraw, who really steals the show yet again. She masterfully portrays Gwen as resolute and strong in certain moments, and then other times she's fragile and absolutely cracking before your eyes. And happily I can report the same can be said for the way we look at the grabber coming out of this movie. This wasn't one of those sequels that adds overly complex lore or any silly nonsense to the grabber. No, it just rounds out his backstory and makes him seem like even more of a monster, if that was even possible, which we find out it very much so is. I mean it, I really like what Ethan Hawke did here. Kudos to him, because in that first film, he's very much a flesh and blood antagonist. He's a creep, he's a cretin, he's a monster. All of that is true. And yes, he can be menacing and physically imposing in moments of that film. But there's also moments where the grabber does come off as sort of a pathetic human being. He seems a little weak in certain moments, maybe even a little vulnerable to counterattack. But in this movie, a lot of those flaws, if you want to call them flaws, since we're talking about a villain, a force, they have been stripped away. Hell has taken that from him. It has gotten rid of all of his humanity, all of his doubt, any of his fragility, his tepidness. It is gone, and all that is left is wrecked, sinful, wicked brutality. And he is just absolutely relishing in that the entire time. The way the grabber is now attacking is very reminiscent of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and I'm sure you will hear that comparison quite often. I'm fine with these similarities though, as I really was entertained and affected by what they accomplished with these parallel qualities. They ultimately deliver several thrilling, chilling, but fun sequences that oftentimes boast impressive modern practical effects. And hot take, if I'm being honest, as I sat there in that theater watching some of these dreamlike attacks where poor Gwen is just being hurled about, twisted, spun, dashed, gashed, and slashed, I thought to myself, is what we're getting right now with the Black Phone 2 as good as it's going to get for us modern horror fans in A Nightmare on Elm Street? And it very well may be, because in my mind's eye, I don't know that what, let's say, Blumhouse would put out if they obtain the rights to A Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't know that it would contend with what the second and third act of this film do. I think ultimately this was more tense, more scary, and just more rewarding as an audience member than just another retread with Freddy. There, I said it. Hopefully I'm wrong, but that's really how I see it. Another potentially hot take would be that The Black Phone 2, I think, may be my favorite Scott Derrickson film. I really enjoyed the way he used the gritty, grainy stylings of his other movie, Sinister, to here make the nightmarish hellscapes that Gwen has to traverse against the grabber feel very real and very menacing, a little bit unnerving, honestly. I mean, the film does an exceptional job of making those nightmarish, trapped battles on some other plane of existence feel unescapable, while also making the snowy terrain, that tundra landscape, also feel so isolated and limiting. So in totality, The Black Phone 2 receives high marks for story, setting, sound design, score, main and supporting cast performances, emotional resonance, and the expansion of an iconic killer's lore. That is right. I think that between the mask of the grabber, the dirty, grimy, stranger danger nature of his character and what he wants to do, who he terrorizes, and now the way that he's able to do it from the beyond, the fact that we've infused a little bit of Shining to our killer and his capabilities and to his protagonist and the way that they have that little connection, I love it. The way he's able to attack like Freddy, like I said, it may end up being better than what would happen if we got A Nightmare on Elm Street from the wrong company right now. So all in all, 4 out of 5. Nate says, get your ass to the theater and check it out. I don't know if I need a Black Phone 3, but I didn't feel like I needed a Black Phone 2 after the first one, and here we are. I really enjoyed it. So let me know your thoughts down below. Hope you enjoyed the film if you've seen it. If you haven't, go check it out. Come back and let old Nate know what you think. But other than that, I hope you have yourself a great day. I'm Nate from Nightmare Flicks, and that's a wrap.